I think that people overlook how in staking everything is very precise in the sense that if you are 1 second before, 1 second later, late to providing your attestation or block, things fall apart really quickly. And so timing wise, the staking infrastructure on Ethereum is very sensitive to those things. And so people underestimate how much sensitive it is. And so they take it for granted. But really, it's, a few hundred milliseconds there and a few hundred milliseconds there, and Ethereum is broken and cannot finalize blocks anymore. And so this is really inconvenient maybe for most people, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. I mean, we're talking today about block proposers trying to postpone the block they launch or that they publish by 100 or 200 milliseconds because that increases their rewards quite significantly. But if they're too late by 1 or 200 milliseconds, their block will be dropped and they get nothing. And so that's literally their entire business of fine-tuning that to really, 100 milliseconds there and 100 milliseconds there. And so it teaches you how sensitive this whole operation is across almost 1.1 million validators. They all need to be extremely precise. Otherwise, Ethereum it will be broken quite rapidly and also will not be able to finalize block. If it doesn't finalize any blocks, you cannot deposit any assets to any exchange. You cannot trade. You cannot do anything. And so Ethereum security is at that margin of error, basically.
And so wanted to get a little bit into the dynamics here that SSV has to tap into to make everything work, right? Sort of under the hood. There's obviously just inherent in DVT technology, a ton of coordination that needs to happen across multiple node operators without compromising validator performance and so forth. And frankly, even within that, node operators have a very wide spectrum of folks, right? You have like very sophisticated places that have tens or hundreds of employees, and you have folks that run smaller shops that are maybe a couple people, right? So when you think about the different elements that need to go right on coordination and some of the challenges that you guys have obviously overcome from a technological perspective, how would you describe that to the audience in a way that's fairly simple?
It's the old 80-20 ratios, but maybe a bit more to the extreme. It's like the last 10% or probably 90% of the time we spent, but the last 10% is what separates a protocol which can achieve 11% stake out of Ethereum to a protocol which is underperforming quite badly. And so we've put 90% of our time into optimizations and performance issues and challenges. And if you look today at SSV, on average, we are the top 40, top 30 of the entirety of Ethereum in terms of staking, in terms of performance. Professional stakers and solo stakers and anything in between. If you compare us even to the most professional stakers like Coinbase and Binance and others, we outperform them, even though their operators are all in-house and obviously with the best machines, best DevOps, and so on and so forth. So the focus there is quite remarkable on optimizations. And again, going back to maybe kind of the future of that, I think that, if you look at rollups today have the same type of mentality because you have very short block times, a lot of pressure to sequence right on time because people are waiting for their transactions. I think we can translate that. Again, Ethereum validators are such an asset because they are already running super high performance setups. And we can translate that into doing more things for Ethereum, not just staking. And so imagine bringing all of that capacity and experience to do things which are traditionally done by a centralized entity, but we can actually do that even better than the centralized entity because we're already doing it better in staking. And so the natural progression of staking is towards things like base rollups and pre-confirmations, which are kind of very complementary, or not even complementary, they're kind of pivotal to Ethereum, but they're complementary in the sense that there's a few ways to do that. And if you use the right tool, you can get better results. And so I think that it's very natural for validators to go into those places. And if we can get to that, the added value is for the entire Ethereum. It's not just for the individual validator. Validators that do more, especially in the rollup world, are making better rollups. You can drive value back to Ethereum holders because you can then drive a lot of the activity of Ethereum back to the actual Ethereum holder. And there's not a lot of other chains that have so much activity. And so this effect of expanding what validators do, but also make Ethereum better and drive value back to Ethereum is quite remarkable. And I think Ethereum validators are in this unique position that no other group of entities or individual actors can actually do and achieve because they're so well organized within Ethereum. Like think about it, 1.1 million validators. That's a large city of coordinating every 12 seconds. That's incredible. And so if you can extend that to services Ethereum has, which is ordering blocks and providing confirmation for transactions and scaling and all of that, I think the effects are well beyond just staking on Ethereum. The effects are on Ethereum itself and its future and its competitiveness against other blockchains, which are scaled, but in a different way. We can scale in a way that preserves what Ethereum is, which is decentralized, credibly neutral, censorship resistant, and we can use the biggest asset we have, which are the validators themselves.